Yes, and we are back with Manesh Girn. Welcome. Thank you for dropping by.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So could you please briefly introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so my background originally is in neuroscience, so I have a PhD in neuroscience and had recently been working at UCSF with Dr. Robin Carhart-Harris. And in the past few months, I've decided to leave academia, and I'm now co-founder and CEO of a company called 5Discovery, where we're developing non-hallucinogenic analogs of 5-MeO-DMT for neurodegenerative disease.
Nice, that's super promising. And you came here to the conference as a speaker. Is there anything else you're um, interested in this conference?
Yes, I've been to this conference a few times and I've enjoyed it because it's a hub, of course, for the development aspect of the field and the industry. And there's a good mix of academic researchers and upcoming companies, and also companies that have been around for a while. And so I was very happy to be invited as a speaker again to speak about our company and our approach. But I feel that being here also is really great for getting up to date on the concerns and challenges that companies are having, how they're responding to challenges such as how to scale up their compounds, how they're dealing with the psychotherapy component with psychedelics, and the kind of approaches to developing new drugs for different indications. And so it's just a hub for that. So it's really great to get kind of up to date on what's happening.
5-MeO-DMT is a fascinating compound. I've never heard of non-hallucinogenic 5-MeO-DMT because it's known as a non-hallucinogenic itself. There is like a near-death experience. So I guess, is that what you remove from the experience?
Yeah, 5-MeO is a really interesting compound. And I think there are a lot of limitations to the term non-hallucinogenic because, of course, it's really non-psychedelic. And psychedelic can imply or encompass a whole variety of effects, right? Not just visual effects, but really powerful cognitive and emotional effects of a large variety. And 5-MeO is really unique in its phenomenology. As we know, it's less inclined towards complex visual imagery. It's more like a dissolution of the self and then often a very somatic emotional experience. And in addition to that, part of the motivation for developing non-psychedelic analogs of 5 is that similar to other classical psychedelics, there's a lot of stuff that happens under the hood: anti-inflammatory effects, pro-neuroplasticity effects, and potentially alterations to particular circuits. And 5-MeO particularly has much higher affinity for the serotonin 1A receptor than psilocybin, for example. And that comes with unique circuit level effects, unique subjective effects, potentially unique neuroplastic effects as well. And so, yeah, we were interested in that for the indications that we're looking at.
Yeah, I believe it's the only psychedelic that touches both 1A and 2A in a very strong manner.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, all the classical psychedelics do hit both, but the affinity, and it depends on the assay, et cetera. But some assays have shown 300 times affinity for the serotonin 1A compared to the 2A, which is far greater than psilocybin. But, psilocybin, LSD, like DMT, like not 5-MeO, just normal DMT, they also hit the 1A, but the 5-MeO is unique in hitting it much more.
And what are the new applications for these for the 5-MeO DMT you see today?
Yeah, so with the field maturing and looking at non-hallucinogenic analogs, the question comes to mind: or what other indications might they be useful for? And there's this huge focus on mood disorders, so depression and anxiety, as well as PTSD and addiction. But the nature of these effects that we're trying to preserve when we remove the psychedelic effects are pro-neuroplasticity, reducing inflammation, potentially having metabolic mitochondrial effects, and modulating these markers of brain health, essentially. And when I hear all those markers, I think of things like brain injury, neurodegenerative disease, things that are explicitly marked by neuronal atrophy and circuit dysfunction. And so that's why we're going after these conditions. And particularly, we're going to start with Parkinson's related disorders, because there was also a really fascinating study out of UCSF through some colleagues of mine there that found reductions in motor symptoms in addition to depression symptoms in Parkinson's patients. And so there's a rationale we have further for these particular subdisorders, but I think it's a whole uncharted territory.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And what excites you most in the field today?
I think the field has a variety of different, almost parallel pathways that I think are really exciting in the actual psychedelic space with psychedelic effects. I'm really interested to see more, on one hand, what it really looks like scaled up. When we go beyond these small studies of 100 people to thousands, and then into the REMS aspect of real world outcomes of what is the actual efficacy? Because many of us have been dying to know this, and beyond the sterile, controlled clinical trials, which are so important, but it's like it doesn't really reflect real clinical practice in the world. And so I'm really excited to see that scale up. At the same time, I'm really interested in effects in healthy people in terms of catalyzing things such as creativity and insight and harmony and meaning and purpose in life. I think that's starting to be increasingly looked at, and I'm involved with a nonprofit called the Center for Minds that's also trying to push that forward. So I think those are really interesting. Not to mention the neuroplastogen aspect of non-hallucinogenic. I think these, not many people, not everybody's ready for a psychedelic experience. Lots of people are contraindicated. So to have compounds that have these positive brain effects without the trip can also represent a huge, hugely impactful complement to psychedelics as well. And that's really moving forward. And we see this at this conference as well.
Any takeaway from the conference?
The takeaways from the conference is that this field is maturing. There's a bit of a lull over the past few years in terms of funding and this overall sentiment after a big, peak of hype around 2020, 2021. And I think things are coming back around. There's more interest, more money coming in. There's a few companies approaching NDAs of trying to get through the FDA and having their phase 3 clinical trial data. That's all, going to happen this year, and it could go one of two ways, right? Either it catalyzes the field and raises all tides, or shows the limitations that were unexpected, perhaps. But I'm very optimistic. I think it's moving forward. Capital's coming again. We're having some people get past the post and have mature data sets, and it's all really exciting. So let's see what happens.
So you think 2027 is going to be the big year for psychedelics?
I think so. Like optimistically, Compass, maybe Usona, maybe other companies too are gonna get FDA approval. Let's hope, and it seems very plausible. And that's gonna signal to investors and just the general public, oh, this is actually a valid approach. It's gonna actually be incorporated in some way into healthcare systems. And I think that will be a massive shift in sentiment and overall perception of psychedelics.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Manesh.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your conference.
Thank you.
Bye.